One day, a king was sitting on his throne when an ambassador from a distant country entered the court. Without saying a word, the ambassador drew a line around the throne and then sat down. The king was baffled by this mysterious behavior. He called for his ministers, but they too were at a loss. This situation was embarrassing for the king. He couldn't believe that no one in his court was wise enough to decipher the symbolic message from a neighboring ruler. Furious, he ordered his ministers to solve the riddle themselves, or find someone in the city who could. If they failed, he threatened to execute them all. Desperate, the ministers began searching the kingdom for a wise person who could interpret the ambassador's actions. After a long search, they came upon a house and entered. In the first room, they found a baby sleeping in a cradle that was rocking by itself, with no one else around. Puzzled, they moved to the next room, where they saw the same strange sight: another baby in a self-rocking cradle. Stepping into the backyard, they noticed freshly washed wheat spread out to dry. A cane was moving back and forth on its own, scaring away sparrows to protect the wheat. Intrigued, the ministers ventured into the cellar, where they discovered a weaver at his loom. The ministers learned that the weaver was a widower, his wife having died shortly after giving birth to twins. He now had to juggle his weaving work, household chores, and caring for his children. Ingeniously, he had devised a system of cords connecting his loom and shuttle to the cradles upstairs and the sparrow-scaring cane in the yard. This clever setup allowed him to manage all his responsibilities efficiently. Impressed by the weaver's resourcefulness, the ministers thought he might be able to solve the king's riddle. They explained the situation to him. After a moment's thought, the weaver grabbed a couple of marbles and a chicken, and then accompanied the ministers to the palace. Once in the king's presence, the weaver locked eyes with the foreign ambassador and tossed the marbles before him. In response, the ambassador took a handful of grain from his pocket and scattered it on the floor. The weaver then set down the chicken, which quickly pecked up all the grain. Suddenly, the ambassador put on his sandals and fled the court in a hurry. The king, still confused, asked, "What just happened here?" The weaver explained, "When the ambassador drew a line around your throne, he was saying that his king plans to besiege us if we don't humble ourselves and pay tribute. I answered by dropping the marbles, suggesting that they're like children compared to us, and should stick to playing marbles instead of starting a war they're bound to lose." The weaver continued his explanation. When he spread the grain, he was implying that their forces are countless. By letting the chicken eat all the grain, I showed that even a small group of our soldiers could easily defeat their entire army. The king was impressed by the weaver's cleverness and offered him expensive gifts. However, the weaver only accepted a modest amount, just enough to raise his beloved twins. The king then proposed to make him the prime minister, but the weaver declined, saying, "Please let me remain a weaver. I only ask that you remember this. Wisdom and understanding aren't distributed according to rank. Common people deserve to be treated with the same humanity as your peers and noblemen.